hours.
That's awesome.
And from Studio 111 by Radio Saigon, simulcast across the country on Blog Talk Radio, later VFO360.com. This is Fanatic Radio, the Millennials Show, back from a brief hiatus of work and play and dedication and leisure, but we are nevertheless back. Probably the final time it will be on the Google Hangout format. For those of you that missed the college football show, it is available on our YouTube page at youtube.com/thefanaticradio. Mike Gardner joins me always, notorious Ben Florence, the self-proprietor of bfo360.com. Loved when you dropped that mention in the in your podcast a couple of episodes ago. But it's been a solid week. Football is back in full swing, and that'll be the bulk of our show today. But we definitely have to start off with what have we been up to the few weeks. It's been a while. How are things kicking in the district? Got your new digs yet?
Yeah, I am. We are working on it right now. I am currently constructing some high-quality IKEA furniture. I think I may be missing a piece, or I can't find it in my mess of a room right now. But yes, we are coming to you live from the new digs here in our nation's capital, Flo, back in DC, which everybody was excited for. You know, they may have to throw me a parade. I'm now back in the District of Columbia, as I still am scrambling to find this piece that can allow me to come closer to finishing my little project. But yeah, it's going along well. It worked great at America's election headquarters, as they like to say. And yeah, everything's coming along pretty good.
Yes. In terms of the realm of politics, were you able to catch the thing? I think this is the special NBC did. Lauer was part of it, where he interviewed the candidates separately. Because am I right in saying the presidential debate, so they start next week or in like 2 weeks? Are we really that close to them?
I believe it's in 2 weeks.
Were you able to catch the Hillary versus Trump via Lauer special?
Yeah, yes, was able to watch it. Pretty wild. People hating on Matt Lauer big league, which was kind of fun. But yeah, definitely watched it. Went out of my way to watch it, of course. Over that action. God, I can't find this freaking thing. Oh, this is brutal. Are
you building a couch or a bed?
I'm building a table. A desk, I should say. A desk. And I've come a long way, but apparently now I can't find this piece that I can screw these little bad boys right here. I can't find the thing that goes into here. And none of the screwdriver things. I'm like, I got this little bad boy, kind of a little Phillips action, trying to jerry rig it. Not working. It is, I don't know what's going on. It's very annoying. But we're hopefully, because I want to get this done, because I want to go to my actual home so I can go to bed, because I got work again at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's just, and I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so it's just been a fiasco. Life is a joke.
We love DIY.
Of course.
I could actually do. If I tell you the story of the time for my first time I went to IKEA.
I don't know if you have, but I hope you tell me now.
Well, we'll definitely save it for the end of the show. I'm wondering what we finish first. This episode of Fanatic Radio or Flo's Table. Tune in and find out. What were your takeaways from the thing? Leading up to more outlandish rogue Trump. And then we had Hillary in the hospital. The internet is blowing up saying I read the other day that people are saying she has a double. There's someone who dresses like her. She's like her understudy.
Oh,
but this is sort of the first time I didn't get a chance to watch it because I don't. There's this awful thing called work. Keeps me up at night. But I didn't get a chance to watch it because I was traveling as well, I guess, the day it happened. But from the Politico man yourself, what were your takeaways?
Well, I think that – because here's the thing, and this has happened now for a while with Trump. Hillary Clinton did not have a great night. She talked about there will never be troops again in Iraq and I believe she said Afghanistan, which is kind of a crazy statement because there are currently troops in both. So she didn't do all that great, and she got pressed big time on the emails. But the thing is that Hillary did have a great night, but Trump kind of went all over the place, going crazy, talking all about Vladimir Putin, talking about how he's going to fire generals when he gets into office. And it's just so, like, I was like, what is this brother doing? That's the weird thing with him. He has the opportunity to, do well. And she is certainly not taking the reins, if you will. But he's just, just crazy. He's like almost, and he's still getting opportunities. He's actually, as I said, I thought I was saying, he's leading in some polls. So it's totally out of control. The selection campaign is insane. I don't know what is going to happen next. I'm almost scared of what's going to happen next because it's just been such a complete mess.
Have we reached that point, or will things sort of look better when the debates start?
Well, I think the debates are going to be huge. The ratings are going to be massive because I think this is going to be the first real time we see Trump in hardcore action as the presidential nominee going against Hillary Clinton. Both candidates very unpopular. I mean, it's just crazy unpopular. And so we got to see now, really in that first debate, that's really going to be a huge opportunity for one of these candidates because the race has been so close, but kind of been a little topsy-turvy of late, for somebody to potentially break out. Of course, 4 years ago, Mitt Romney blew the doors off of Barack Obama in that first debate. I mean, Obama was atrocious in that debate. And, of course, Obama roared back, won the election. So sometimes we may put a little too much emphasis on the debates, but this is definitely going to be definitely one to watch.
You said that's in 2 weeks, so we'll definitely get the post-debate breakdown in due time when it happens. And so that's good political talk. Anything else wild and crazy happen at the oh yes, Fox, totally forgot. What's your thoughts on the Roger Ailes story? I bet your HQ is going nuts, going bananas over there.
Yeah, it's actually funny you brought that up. Rupert Murdoch was in the building today, fun fact.
What?
So I saw him, I was like, I am sticking around because I cannot miss Rupert Murdoch. This would probably be the only time in my lifetime I ever get anywhere close to him. So I saw him a couple times.
You breathe the same air as like one of the biggest moguls.
That's right. That's right. So yeah. So I saw Murdoch, and I don't know why he was in town, but Murdoch was in town. I really don't want to get into all the Ale stuff. A lot of it's still pending. A lot of litigation. A lot of people that I know involved. It's very much a mess. Still a mess. But it's still a pending thing. It's definitely been a tough time for the company, and we shall see where we go forward.
Any other big stories happen that you can't talk more in depth about because I don't want to get you fired?
Yeah, I mean it's just such a tough subject to talk about. I mean, I thought it was. I thought I saw upheaval when I was at NBC. Damn fly. When I was at NBC, we had the whole Brian Williams mess, and that was crazy. And this is just basically just blowing the doors off it. Maybe I'm bad luck. I may just end up being bad luck. But
no, you're like TNT. We know drama.
I like that. Who knows? What a mess. What a mess for the network. What a mess for us. It's been crazy.
Have you guys been covering much? I know obviously the political campaign, but we love it occasionally when sports delves and blends with politics. Were you guys covering a lot of the Kaepernick stuff when it first happened?
Oh yeah, a friend of mine actually said, "Oh, you guys could have." I was like, this will be a huge story. I'm like, "Oh, do you think my network's going to cover it?" He's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." And lo and behold, we have covered it at length. But it has kind of died off a little bit because I think that you had the initial action, which was what it was, and then everyone was kind of, well, the crazy thing is, and I love when people are like, "Oh, he's doing this for attention. It's all about attention." Like, he had done it like twice before, and nobody noticed. So clearly, if he's doing this to get attention, he wasn't doing a great job of it. But yeah, it got into our airwaves a little bit.
It's funny you mentioned that, because digging and doing some research, as we are often criticized on this show for, we actually do have the facts. But Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, 96, protested the Star Spangled Banner when Chris Jackson converted to Islam, and lo and behold, that was only 20 years ago. We were both alive when that happened, and don't even remember it happening because we were like 3 years old. But it's not a thing that is new. Mm-hmm. Is it just sort of a sign of the times in our society today, how they just got blown out of proportion? As we've seen this happen,
Sorry about that.
As Flo is doing some strong DIY. We gotta get some sponsor plugs. What's your hammer company?
It is Regal. It's by Regal, not by Regal Cinema, but whoever the Regal is Tyrese's hammer, because this is his toolbox kit. Oh, so, geez. Yeah. Oh, I think I found the tool I was looking for. Where the hell was that? All right, let's see if this works now. Maybe trying to hammer in a screw may not have been a great idea, but you got to try.
That is true. I think that's what the Wright brothers said.
Yeah. So Regal hammer, a quality hammer.
Quality hammer. But as we're going, before we went off on the sponsorship in the pseudo plug, I was saying that it's funny because we mentioned Chris Jackson did the Nuggets in '96, and we've seen various protests, and I'm glad I mentioned the Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf one, because that's one kind of relevant and current. We've seen guys, certain players sit the bench. I think he was actually the guy that sparked the you can bow your head and not sing along or put your hand over your heart. A lot of the NBA players do now. But it's funny how much this story just blew up out of nowhere. I didn't realize he did it. My mom actually told me, because it's funny that at the time this happened, and I'll get to it at the end of the show when I talk about where the hell my Gunner's been past 2 weeks. But this is the time I was actually in Nashville on a business trip. And I was like Carmen Sandiego for about 2 weeks. I was in Houston. I was in Houston, and then I went to Nashville. Then I was back home, and then I was in Phoenix. So I will definitely recap those 2 weeks as the show progresses. But I totally missed all of it because I don't watch preseason games. One, because the Olympics were going on when preseason, so I was finishing up the Olympics. And then the games like the random weeknights, you don't know who's playing, or you don't want to watch some random third-string quarterback. And I totally missed how this whole story started, which is funny because everyone got mad about it at first. And I thought, well, that's the way the human existence has been. There's always been someone with opposition to what you say. But when it first happened, as a sports fan, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people I actually just let it stay. It wasn't mandatory. Like, teams, with the exception of like primetime games, the Super Bowl, big playoff games, when you would have so much attention on the national anthem, until like 6 or 7 years ago, I think it was 2008 or 2009. Teams weren't even on the field for the national anthem. So and of course, the NFL rule is they say, we encourage everybody to stand for the national anthem, but it's not mandatory because I believe it's mandatory in the NBA. I can't speak for Major League Baseball or the NHL, but I thought because here the problem with, and Scott Van Pelt talked about this, the problem was that people just it was so much about his act of protest than more so than about the message. Which, if you listen to his message, it was he had a relatively articulate point. He was making a case for something. African Americans treated differently by members of law enforcement and members of government, the extension of law enforcement, or laws forming this extension of government. So I was like, hey, you know what? I always stand, but and I thought, you know what? He's entitled to his beliefs. I may not totally agree with him or agree with his form of protest, but that's the point of protest. It's supposed to make us uncomfortable. And it's supposed to make us. But in the end, I was like, you know what? I don't have a problem with it. He's entitled to do what he wants. And I think he's found a little bit of a better compromise now than just sitting on the bench and doing a kneel. I think that's a little bit of a better compromise than what he was doing because it's still not standing, but it's better than just him sitting on the bench. So, but when this first came out, I didn't really honestly have a problem with it. I was like, that's the beauty of America. He has freedom of speech. He's entitled to express his views in such a way and use such a forum.
Would it have been better, I guess, avoided? Because I'm wondering this as well. And the more I listen to other interviews and read all these articles, it kind of the lines become clear. The gray area gets sort of dissolved, but. Would it have been better if like on, it was a great example where a lot of teams, Seattle Seahawks in particular, stood arm in arm. But a symbol more of like team unity. That and the fact that it was on 9/11, which we'll definitely get to in a minute about that and this whole protest thing. But would it have been better? Two-part question. Would it have been better if Kaepernick would have gone to the 49ers or told someone he did this instead of it just sort of doing it out of the blue? And then another big question, which a lot of hot take sports people wonder, is what if it was would the message or stuff been more well received if it was a more high profile athlete, say like your boy Aaron Rodgers or a LeBron James or someone like that?
I think that's that last part is a very good point. I think because Colin Kaepernick was not going to win the starting job, it looked like he was going to be the backup quarterback for the 49ers. His play has fallen off over the past few years. I think that opened itself to criticism like, oh, he's just looking for attention. His profile is going down. So it's a way for him to speak out. And, be like, hey, I'm still around. I'm still a guy, here's my name in the news. And a way for him to do it when he's not starting. So I think if it would have been, if it was like a high profile guy, like, Carmelo Anthony has really kind of taken the lead on, been very outspoken in the NBA. He, of course, say what you want about him, still a star player, one of the top elite scorers in the NBA. So I think if it had been, a really high profile guy, it would have drawn like immediate attention because all eyes are on that person anyways. Again, with Kaepernick, one reporter, Steve Weish for NFL Network, he was the only person that caught it, I believe, and asked him about it. And that's how this whole thing started. If it wasn't for him, I don't even know if anybody would have noticed. I mean, they may have noticed eventually. Part of if it had been a bit more high profile, I think that's definitely a strong argument. But it's always hard to say that because we always want players, to take stands, stand on something. But the thing is, like, that's not how it always happens. Is somebody starts it, and but you never know who that's going to be necessarily. I think as to your first question about would have been better if it may have been more of a team effort, I think perhaps if he had talked to players, and I don't know if he had or had not, if he had talked to other players like, hey, I'm going to do this, would you want to get in the mix, or if you want to do it with me, stand with me, brothers in arms, if you will. Maybe if it had been multiple players, it also would have negated that first part of, oh, it's just Kaepernick looking for attention. That could have possibly been. And I think also if he had done from the get-go, if he had done if he had done the kneel, been on a knee instead of sitting on the bench, I think that also may have, because even though you were looking at it from the backside with him, kind of hunched over on the seat, it almost kind of looked like he was pouting. Now, I don't believe he was pouting, but it almost kind of looked that way just from how that, the grainy picture was. So I think that's definitely an interesting point, all the points you raised. And I think that, it's definitely easy to say, the pun intended, by the way, pun intended, to kind of armchair quarterback this. But it's, he's attempted to draw some awareness to a key issue, particularly in his community. And you know what? Good on him for it, in my opinion.
So, ironically, this past Sunday was 9/11, and more teams and players did it. You're seeing a lot more backlash from people now that this regular season's underway. Where you got Brandon Marshall, linebacker for the Broncos, losing all sorts of endorsements. Jerry Jones speaking, he's upset with it. And then it started to bleed into other sports. John Tortella, head coach of the Team USA hockey team, World Cup of Hockey starts soon this week. He said, yeah, anyone who sits, that's where they're going to stay. They're not going to see the ice if they protest. Megan Rapinoe did it to the point where Washington Spirits, women's soccer team, while the players were still in the locker room, is there an end in sight to this, or how long do you think this protesting and constant whirlwind will continue?
Well, I think you're going to see players continue to do it. I don't think that because I think now it's also come to a point, let's say hypothetically if Kaepernick stops doing it, now that potentially, and I think maybe unfairly, be like, oh, well, why you stop doing it now? You don't care about the issue, which I don't think would be a fair criticism, but he would open himself up to that criticism if he were to stop. Now, maybe if he were to stop for a reason like, they start fining him or whatever, or the threat of suspension, what have you. But I think that, I didn't know what I'm doing here. Okay. Okay. So I think it's yes.
As we have a continued update of Flo's IKEA table.
Yeah, which has actually come along well. But so, what was your question again?
No, I'm saying, is there an end in sight? Are we going to see protests through the Super Bowl and into the NBA season? Because at a TEDCrunch talk, not TED Talk with that TEDCrunch magazine, Steph Curry said he would stand. Because a lot of people asked him about it. Because will we see it go into other sports? Mainly, why I asked this question is great USA Today article. Adam Jones of the Baltimore Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
He has been under fire because when asked why no one in baseball has done it, he said because baseball is too much of a white man's game. And that's very interesting because only the NFL is doing this. You don't see how head coach, I mentioned head coach of Team USA in hockey said he benches players if they did it. NBA season obviously hasn't started. No college football team has done it. This is this something? Because obviously Colin Kaepernick said until the system is fixed, which could take decades. Are people going to be kneeling till the end of time?
I don't know if everyone will be kneeling until the end of time, but I think somebody like Kaepernick, I think, like I said, he's going to own it. He's going to be like, you know what, this is my thing. This is my responsibility now to keep up my argument. To keep that going. I don't know. I think it's really going to be interesting to see what you see from NBA players going forward because, I think say what you want. It's not a great comment or it's not a pretty comment from Adam Jones, but Major League Baseball is a predominantly white sport. There's been an issue with, there's been a dearth of African American players for several years now. I remember in Sports Illustrated, this was like, I think a decade ago, there's a report on how now there's a lack of African Americans in the game. So I think that's, say what you want, I think that's a fair point. Hockey, not a lot of African American presence, and it's a heavy European and certainly heavy Canadian presence. So I really I didn't expect to see really anything else. But I think it's really going to be interesting to see what you get season, which is coming up soon. We're only a couple months away. So I think that I think now once people do it, unless there's some like dire reason for them to stop, I think they're going to keep on doing it. And I think we're going to, people are just going to, have to get used to it and be like, you know what, this is what players are going to do, and so on and so forth.
Which is funny because in the 60s, after, of course, we obviously didn't live through that time, but after the Mexico City Olympic protest, we didn't really see that much increase in athletes. You obviously had the pioneers like Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but you didn't see it continue vastly into like the 70s and 80s. Which is funny you mentioned of the statistics. From that USA Today article, African Americans comprise of 68% in the NFL, 74% in the NBA, just 8% in Major League Baseball. So, especially with the playoffs coming up, now you're seeing guys like CeCe Sabathia agree with Adam Jones. It'd be interesting if baseball did something like that, because you have to actually go onto the field or sit outside the dugout in baseball. Hockey, you have to go onto the ice. Yeah, and NBA, some of them, they go, parallel at the free throw line. So I'm curious to see how far it goes. If you're a sociology major, this is gold, because Fanatic Radio we could be doing our own independent, undisclosed study on this. But I'm glad that teams are taking stands, because it's interesting. Is this probably the most controversial act we've seen in sports since we found out, the steroid users in baseball? Is this a topic that has gotten the American public? So is it just that impactful because it touches so many people?
Well, I think especially at the time when it's happened, we've had the whole this whole Black Lives Matter talk. We've had this really discussion of, had some serious discussions about race relations in America. The fact that this is happening now really kind of has to, extrapolate the situation or, kind of build it up, simply because, it's such a high-profile sport, obviously, even in the preseason when this initially happened. And it's such, we look at something and, everyone wants to be patriotic, and anything people will look down on other folks if they do anything that's deemed to be unpatriotic, as if there's something necessarily wrong with that. Now, we can go on and have a back and forth about that, but about patriotism and what it means. But I think that with this, I think it's definitely something that, rightly or wrongly, Kaepernick has really touched two discussions: one about his argument, and two about what is the line or the lines of protest that an athlete is willing to do, potentially at risk for his career. Now, we haven't really seen any risk for Kaepernick's career yet, but because it's still so fresh. But
Well, my thing is, what happens if he gets, because he's obviously the number 2 on this San Francisco team that beat the LA Rams, awful team by the way.
Yeah.
But what if he's out of the league next year, or even sooner, or if he gets hurt? Does all this go down the drain, or someone else sort of pick up the torch?
Well, I think that now you're seeing more guys do it. I think you may start to see high profile guys do it. I think it's one of those things to where I think now it's not just Kaepernick. He's got his teammate safety Eric Reed, Brandon Marshall, and Brandon Marshall on the Denver Broncos. So I think you're going to see So I think you're going to start to see more players do it. I don't think you're going to see like everybody do it, but I think you're going to start to see more and more players do it, and then I think it's going to eventually start to transcend sports. By the way, and this is a great segue, my table is done. Look at
Whoa!
that table, IKEA, fabulous, great job.
Look at that. Show it again for the fans watching on the Google Plus or Hangout.
Sure. Yeah, this is my new table. Now, I think I may have made a mistake. That there's this gap here that I don't think is necessarily supposed to be there. I may have put this on upside down. But anyways, it is a table. You can do things on it.
God damn, that's quality craftsmanship. The Pope could host mass off that table.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. Yeah. DIY on FR, brought to you by IKEA and Regal Tools, the knockoff brand of Stanley. Former sponsor of Tim Fiedel.
Tim Fiedel.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see where the protests go. I think it'll pick up steam when the NBA happens because obviously the ESPYs, as we talked about on this show a month ago, they were the guys that sort of brought this to light. Melo's done a fabulous job of keeping the conversation going, especially in LA and I guess in the inner cities. LeBron's obviously giving back to Cleveland. You've got D-Wade going back to Chicago. Anthony Davis, he said he'd be doing a lot more in his community, Southside, where he was born. Melo had a forum in LA for the Olympics, and both men's and women's teams, police, citizens of Los Angeles were there. It's interesting. It's something that we actually haven't. Our generation hasn't witnessed because we grew up, in the time of like the .com boom. There's so much positive vibes, and then, especially in sports, I think ever since about like 2010, you started to see politics, or not politics, but just certain stances. Do you think this will, or another thing, with these protests going on? Presidential debates. We mentioned politics at the top of the show. Will the heightened influx of these protests go down after November 8th?
It could happen. It definitely could happen. I think that they'll continue. I do think they're going to continue to go on. I don't think it's going to be anybody surprised by it. It's like Trump will come out strong against it, and I may have done something wrong here. Anyways, what was I going to say? I think it's going to continue going, really, almost regardless of what happens in the debates. I think it's going to keep on going and going, and into the future.
At what point do you think it's too much? My thing is if college guys start to do it, because a lot of people are upset when like Hoya Saxa wore the "I Can't Breathe" shirts. That's when I think you saw the slow demise of that protest when college kids started doing it.
I don't know, because it'll be interesting to see if collegiate guys start to do it. This is annoying. Anyways, so yeah, I really don't know when. I think maybe when if you start to see whole teams doing it, but that's the thing in today's society. Things do eventually wear off. But I think, maybe some guys will drop off. But I do expect Kaepernick to keep it going. I think at the very least he will keep it going.
That being said, how excited are you that week 1 is officially in the books, on to week 2?
Definitely excited. Very happy that football is back. And it's going to be interesting to see in week 2. You know, a lot of times we'll surprise in week 1. Simply because, you know, we don't know what to expect from teams. They come out with a big edge. They're playing at home. They're playing in prime time, what have you. So it'll be interesting to see what we get going forward. But yeah, so definitely excited for week 1, having come and gone, and now the season is really on.
So we definitely got to touch on top two or three teams that most impressed you. Impact didn't look that good, but they got the win, 1-0. Bradyless Pats, Jimmy Garoppolo got the win Sunday night. Both Sunday night, Thursday night football games ended in fiascos of missed field goal kicks. Then we had the Oakland Raiders gambling, going for 2, winning the game against the Who Dat Saints. Who are your big surprises after week 1 of saying that these teams, they can make? Who is this year's Carolina Panthers?
I really think for something like that, because Carolina came out and then went 15-1, was so strong. Really was the class of everybody in the NFC en route to getting to the Super Bowl. So I don't know necessarily who is going to be getting to that. I think you mentioned the Patriots. Without Tom Brady, with Jimmy Garoppolo, without Rob Gronkowski, without Deion Lewis, without this guy, without that guy. Really impressive to see them go into Arizona, go into Glendale, take out the Cardinals. So I think you're going to be one of the better teams in the NFL. The fact that they were able to go in, and yes, Arizona did not look great, that we're able to go in and get a win like that, I think really says something. And when Garoppolo didn't even play all that well. That's the thing. Garoppolo was not great. So it's going to be interesting to see really how this team does in the remaining 3 games, all home games without Tom Brady. So they definitely impressed me. Other teams that impressed me, I thought the Giants looked pretty good. They show that once they actually get some semblance of a defense, because their defense was just so bad last year, even against a backup quarterback and for the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott, they were able to get a lot of pressure on them against one of, actually, in my opinion, the top defensive line or offensive line in the NFL. So I thought that was an impressive win for the New York Giants. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, Washington, not a great team, but a division champion last year and likely to be a key contender in their division this year. But, a strong performance from Pittsburgh. They look really good. And we shall see.
A big point that we tried to touch on yesterday before the heavens opened up, and God did not want us to do this on a Wednesday. He said we should do Fanatic Radio on a Thursday. Was the Ben Roethlisberger said during preseason that he wanted to take the Steelers to be the Golden State Warriors of the NFL, and what he meant by that was how the Warriors shot three-pointers. They shoot three-pointers so effectively that statistically a 33% downtown shooting team can beat a team that shoots 50% from the field. Yet the Steelers didn't go for 2 at all. 15 yards. Lakers are still making PT. So the Raiders go for 2 and win it. Is going for 2 going to be sort of the new thing, like how basketball has been killed by the 3-point line?
I don't know if it's necessarily. I think that you're going to start to see something too. I think in the context of the Raiders doing it for the win, I think that's a little different. They had a lot of momentum. Their offense was really clicking at that point and on the road. So I think that's a little different. But I think you will see some teams, if they're feeling hot offensively, trying to mix it up and go for the 2-point conversion. We have teams do it a little bit before with varying degrees of success. But really, if you get that 2-point game, if you get that 2-point conversion cranked up, really it can open up a lot of things for your offense and really put the other team at a disadvantage.
Absolutely. And of course, we'll take a quick break for some good music, as that far still plays music. But when we return, we'll continue our NFL discussion. Get to fan mail, because being gone for 2 weeks, we've missed a wholesome of topics. So we'll answer we'll give the people what they want and answer some questions. But you're listening to Fanatic Radio, blogtalkradio.com, beefo360.com. More after this.
This is Fanatic Radio.
What's wrong with that? He fought for his country.
It's the reason you wake up on game day and put on your team's colors.
Fanatic Radio on
Blog Talk Radio.
And we're back here on Fanatic Radio, powered by 100 Contacts, 100 Flowers, SeatGeek, FanDuel. I was kidding, we don't endorse gambling, not in Vegas or Jersey. Mike Gardner, Ben Florence. You can catch the podcast on iTunes, beefo360.com, facebook.com/Fanatic Radio. And we'll be back on Blog Talk Radio. The episodes will be up and running. We've reached an impasse, so it'll be a ceasefire, but nevertheless, we will give the good fans continuous good streaming of the Millennials Show. As we missed the first half, we into a pretty great discussion about the social injustice and protests in sports, how Trump versus Hillary is coming up soon. The world is going to be set on fire, to quote Alicia Keys. I also want to give a shout-out to the ITA, Intercollegiate Tennis Association, my good friend Mary Edmond, former coworker of the USOC, living in Phoenix, working for the ITA, gave me this awesome bottle opener, which is like the thing that you get like authentically at bars around the country when you got people sweating their ass off and flipping bottle caps to give everyone, their frothy cold beverages and whatnot. So yeah, shout out to the ITA. Very cool bottle opener. My Gardner Ben Florence. You can also catch B-Flow's podcast on bflow360.com. Great discussion. The past 2 episodes. First one, loved the abroad intercontinental guest in Ireland, which is so great because I love how he even admitted he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna hang up," and Flo, you're like, "Yeah, we're gonna hang up on your behalf."
Yeah.
That's good. We roll on with our NFL talk. Week 1's in the books. I mentioned the Steelers team to watch. Your Pack, when they get rolling, do you expect big things? 12-win season, or is the bar sit even higher for Aaron Rodgers now that your boy Jordy Nelson's back?
I think 12-win season is definitely in the mix. I think you look at the division. Detroit, I'm not high into Detroit. Minnesota didn't look that great, and they're without Teddy Bridgewater. Chicago didn't look that good either. So I think the division is definitely easily there for the taking. The schedule is not that difficult in terms of who they play. Of course, it's based off last year. Things can always change. But I do have high expectations for this team. I do think that they have big things in store. And I think they can do some damage, maybe even win the Super Bowl 20 years after Brett Favre with the Packers to victory in Super Bowl 31.
No, didn't they win it they won it in Dallas?
No, that game was with Favre. That was in Los Angeles, New Orleans, I should say. No, New Orleans. But they won, what was it?
45.
6 years ago.
That's right, because my dad was actually at that game.
Ah, the great Steve guy.
Yes, he said one of the most highly anticipated, exciting football games he's ever seen, because that was a game where, and you'd obviously know this better than I do, but didn't Charles Woodson like break his leg, or like he ended his career in that game?
Yeah, well, he didn't end his career, but he did have like a bad collarbone injury. That's a shame because I loved him. He was a great Packer, and I loved him as a Packer before he went back to Oakland, and that was on NFL Sunday Countdown on ESPN. But yeah, that's right. That did happen. The collar injury did happen. I think it was a collarbone, but I could be wrong.
I think it was. But ironically, we talked the team we talked to after the break were in that Super Bowl, Pittsburgh and Green Bay. That's definitely a Super Bowl matchup. Knowing how awful the Cleveland Browns, actually Cleveland Browns, definitely talk about them. I got your thoughts about it. I saw this today and I thought this has a flow rant all over it. Hugh Jackson told reporters today he guarantees a Super Bowl while he's coach of the Cleveland Browns. Is he having a case of the Mondays, or is this man out of his mind, clinically insane?
You know, I love Hugh Jackson. I do think he's a good coach, but I heard those comments and it's just like, what are you doing? I mean, I don't know what he was trying to do, but I guess, because the Browns have just been such a mess over the years. So I can't blame him for wanting to inspire his team. But I think that's just such a crazy comment to make. And frankly, I think at some point he may wind up regretting that.
He absolutely will. But it's funny. Worst representation of the Heisman Trophy in terms of NFL career. And this is dealing with all the factors. Johnny Manziel or RG3, because many are saying that Robert Griffin will never play in the NFL again because the man has glass bones.
Yeah. That's an interesting discussion. I have to go with if the question is who's made it worse, it has to be Johnny Manziel. Robert Griffin III, at least he had injury issues, and that, say what you want, but that's not like entirely necessarily in his control. So I can't blame for that. Johnny Manziel is out of the league. He may legitimately never play again after 2 years, and he barely played, struggled to get time on the Browns. So I find it hard to not say Robert Griffin III there.
Do you know that Manziel's going back to school at Texas A&M?
I did see that.
Are we taking a road trip to College Station to see his whereabouts?
I think we probably should.
I have friends down there. Shout out to Al Hewitt. He's currently in Rio right now at the Paralympics, but he's a grad student there. He's a TA and helps teach an online class at Texas A&M College Station, which is great because we could turn it into a 2-part trip. Because an hour away from Bryant College Station is great Houston, Texas, where the great John Gardner resides, Flesh and Blood. Lives in West Houston.
Excellent.
So we gotta go see him. We have Manziel signing back in college, finally out of the city of Dallas, completely tearing up my city. The Robert Griffin thing is hilarious because the whole thing with the Cleveland Browns he was snake bit from the beginning when he moved to Cleveland and he got traded. And the whole thing with Washington, he cleaned out his locker and everything. That's just a bad franchise. But are you surprised that, speaking of bad franchises, that it's something part of the week one bonanza, the little franchises that many people are saying could make the playoffs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Oakland Raiders, two teams that were in the toilet 2-3 years ago, are now poised to threaten the division. Are you buying or selling these two teams? Especially the Raiders. You said you're very high on the silver and black, Ben Florence.
I am high on the Raiders. I like Derek Carr. I think they've built a good team. They got some solid offensive players. I love Amari Cooper. Defensively, they got some players on that side of the ball as well. Khalil Mack is a true star as a linebacker. So I think the Raiders, in a division that looks relatively wide open, especially now, I think the Raiders should really push the action and maybe get some action going forward. But I think that you mentioned the Buccaneers. I'm not sold on the Buccaneers just yet because for a couple reasons. But I do love Jameis Winston. He's looked really good of late. But I'm not certain about this defense. The defense, I think, still has a ways to go, quite frankly. But so I'm not necessarily there on the Buccaneers yet. But I am high in the Raiders, and I do think they're going to make the playoffs. I'm willing to go on the record and say that right now.
Who is joining them though from the AFC West?
I like Kansas City. Kansas City did not play very well against San Diego, although they were able to get the win, so you can give them credit for that. But I think I think those are, in my opinion, the two best teams. But you never know with Denver. If Denver, their defense continues to play well, and if they get just even decent quarterback play from Trevor Siemian, you never know with them. Maybe they can get back in the playoff mix as well.
Is that the most exciting division in this year's NFL?
I think so, because I think the 4 teams in that division, Kansas City, Oakland, San Diego, and Denver, I think they're all decent to quality teams. I don't think there are any great teams in that division, but I don't think there are any bad teams in that division, which I think is a good thing in terms of parity and could really make that interesting division-wise. So I think that may be, in terms of the excitement factor that you talk about, be the top in turn for the NFL.
Because you also mentioned the NFC East, the great America's team. Speaking of guys with glass bones, Tony Romo, we wish him a speedy recovery, knowing that Dallas had no plans that he was going to get hurt, so they threw Dak Prescott into the fire. Actually almost won, but lost to the Big Blue Wrecking Crew. And then the Skins looked awful. And the Philadelphia Eagles just, who knows what they're doing. But is there any other division that you see wide open? We have the Texans with Brock Osweiler, Andrew Luck and the Colts. Then Jacksonville gave your Pack a run for your money, but then in most of the divisions, though, it's pretty much you can guarantee like two teams to duke it out, which is funny because the NFL, it's like this is sort of one of the, of course it's week 1. I'm probably gonna say it'll be at week 6 when we realize who the actual true players are, which is funny when I asked you who's the next Carolina Panthers this year. We had such vague answers because you can't really say it. But continuing with themes, are you surprised with the amount of young quarterbacks, especially in this season, not only just on teams, but starting? Because we saw a lot of guys retire this year. Calvin Johnson is gone. Marshawn Lynch is gone. Everyone is hanging it up. We saw several guys from the 49ers leave for retirement or other reasons. And then we're seeing all these young guys. Trevor Siemian, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff in street clothes on the bench, Carson Wentz. Are you surprised with how much youth has taken over the NFL?
Not necessarily. I think some of the guys you mentioned, Goff obviously isn't playing and may not even play for week 2, which is surprising considering how hideous of a job Case Keenum did. But Carson Wentz only really starting because of the Sam Bradford trade, but they were comfortable enough with him. So I'm not that surprised. I think now it generally was in the past. Quarterbacks would sit for a few weeks and not a whole season. Like, for example, with Carson Palmer, he didn't play at all his rookie year. So I don't know if necessarily it's a new wave, but you do see now a little more often teams willing to, because you make such high investments in the quarterbacks.
But why is it that some get it, but yet some suck? Because you have Andrew Luck, who came out of college and has been relatively great. My boy Matt Stafford, hasn't had a bad season with Detroit. But then there's the other end of the spectrum, where you got just guys looking like us out there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things. A lot of times teams don't think that, they may not want to start a quarterback right away, but they may be forced to because they may not have any other option. They may not have a quality veteran that can take them to win games. These coaches are, their responsibility is to put their team out there, put the players out there, and give them the best chance to win a game. And if that means a rookie quarterback, then it's a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback. You mentioned Andrew. There are also some prospects that are just so highly regarded that they're going to play right away. You can expect them to be good. Andrew Luck was one of those guys. Maybe to a lesser extent, James Winston, Marcus Mariota for the Tennessee Titans. But
your boy Mariota.
What's that?
I said your boy Mariota.
Yeah, I like Mariota. He didn't look great on Sunday. But I think his fault is that he's got a horrible head coach, Mike McCarthy. That was one of the worst head coaching hires from recent years. Quite frankly, that was just a horrendous hire. But I also don't think he's got a great supporting cast around him. So I'm not willing to. I think the jury's still a little bit out with him. While I am still very high in James Winston, but he's got, Mike Evans, he's got Jackson, he's got Jim Martin in the backfield, and he's got some quality players to throw to in a run with.
And so before we move to fan mail, how is the update with the table going on? Or the desk, I should say.
Eventually, I'm going to give up because I'm back here tomorrow because I need to be here for them to set up the internet and the cable. And especially because I got 4, I'm there working. But I did not sleep well at all last night, and I'm off on Saturday for 2 moves. So if I end up, having another crappy night of sleep, that's whatever. That is what it is. That's the thing. You're never going to get a good night of sleep when you got to be in at work at 4 o'clock in the morning. Because if I wake up at 3, I'm not going to get 8 hours. I'm not going to go to bed at 7 o'clock. I mean, that's ridiculous. So my hopes are to get 6 hours, and that's not great. And if I get less, then who the hell knows? So it's life, but it's a mess.
Do you drink 5-hour energy? Have you ever tried that before?
I have tried it when I started on the 4 a.m. shift. Actually, and also when I really started on the overnight shift before I got used to that, I would drink it every now and again. I haven't bought it in a while. But I do find that it has worked, whether it really works or whether it's a placebo effect, whatever the hell you want. It just seems to me that it works. So
I tried it once and it tastes so bad. Granted, I was in high school. I think I was like a junior in high school. I went to a like one of those statewide like academic things. I did it for journalism. I was in I don't know, I got invited because my teacher spoke highly of me, which I praise Kent Smith for that. I need to get in touch with him. I haven't heard from him in like 5 years, so I don't know if he's even still alive. Who knows? I think he had diabetes, but hope he's still knocking around. Gotta connect with him. But I tried it sort of as a joke because that was when 5-hour energy first came out in like 08, 09, and I was like, okay, what's the buzz about? I took a sip. I didn't realize you have to like like Lil Jon, LMFAO shot. You have to pound it down. You cannot just.
You do.
You cannot sip it slow because I took a sip and it tastes so bad that I ended up throwing like half the bottle away. Did not work, and because I didn't get the full effect of it. Because I'm just now starting to find out the perfect cocktail of coffee that I drink, not on a regular basis, but just every now and then. That being said, NFL season, week 1, obviously Fanatic Radio is not going full in-depth team by team because we'll probably start doing that around week 6. And the NFL conversation will continue to go on. We'll continue to monitor the Colin Kaepernick take a knee like a YMCA team when someone else gets hurt type of knee, especially when MLB season enters the postseason and basketball season starts. Because it's originally funny, the NBA actually is kind of the leaders in protests because we saw players wear the I Can't Breathe shirts when we have the constant debate about, I think Adam Silver dropped the ball in not punishing these fools for abiding a contract with Adidas, but Adam Silver is definitely forever the good cop. Are you surprised, actually, before we sort of stick the nail in the coffin for today's NFL discussion, are you surprised the NFL has been relatively quiet on this?
I'm not. I think they kind of have to walk a little bit of a slippery slope because they're not violating any rules. You're allowed to not stand. It's not a rule to stand. So I think it's a little bit for them a slippery slope. I don't know necessarily what the recourse for them to do something would be, but it's definitely interesting. I don't know necessarily if they can or if they will. They have the desire, frankly, to do anything. I'm not necessarily sold that they do.
All right. And more NFL discussion coming up next week on Fanatic Radio. Great games. Great college football games. I want to give a shout out to make sure to check out the college football preview show from the August 24th show of Fanatic Radio. Flo said Houston running the table openly admits that he picked Oklahoma to beat Houston. Yet
I don't even remember saying that I thought Houston was going to win the table. I thought I said that, and I love that I'm doing this, that I thought I said that if Houston runs the table, they could be in the playoff. I don't remember saying, we'd have to go back to the videotape.
We will absolutely go back.
Honestly, I don't remember, because I didn't pick it in my picks.
Well, I know, but you said I asked you team to look out for, and you said watch out for Houston. Lo and behold, this team, this guy named Gary Ward Jr., who nobody knew anything about. I mean, I knew him just because the only Houston game I watched last year was the championship game against Navy, because I wanted Navy to win, because I wanted Navy to go to a New Year's Six bowl, which hasn't happened since like Staubach played. And I thought this would be great. Keenan Reynolds. He's going to win the Heisman. Of course, the Heisman's rigged, which is funny that I'm saying it considering my client sponsors the Heisman. Great commercials, by the way. I had no hand in that, but I did have actual praise and approval from our good folks at Nissan sponsoring the Heisman House. 16th year of sponsorship of the Heisman, 11th year of Heisman House. Great cast this year. Tebow is in the mix. Speaking of Tebow, we actually have a fan mail question about that. But Tebow is in it. We got, the great Matt Leinart and Charlie Ward, the great three-sport athlete. Don't know how, but somehow he was. Derrick Henry, who is with the Titans with your boy Mariota. Doug Flutie is in the mix. Tim Brown. Who else? Mariota. It's like a weird mix. It's because I think Heisman House is getting kind of lazy in terms of who they're going to get. But yet it's like it's a mix of old and new. Danny Werfeld's in it.
Yes,
the guy from former Florida, the great Florida quarterback before Tim Tebow came along. That is actually first email question. Man, remember fans, you can email us thefanaticradio@gmail.com. Submit your fan questions. We're getting emails by the tens of hundreds.
That's right.
Of thousands. I love the fans. We'll be back on Blog Talk Radio hopefully soon. And check out the podcast on iTunes and BFlow360. First question, of course, we've had to sift through a massive amount of emails, 2 weeks of emails, but somehow we've managed to touch all bases of sports. No pun intended with bases. First email says Flo. It says, we know Flo is a fan of the Yankees, but will Tim Tebow ever put on a Mets uniform?
I'm going to be really surprised if that ever happens. If they think he can play, they think he can play. But again, he is how old now? And he's going to a structural league, so he is a ways away. I think they just like, hey, you know what? Why not? Maybe he could turn into something. But I can't imagine Tim Tebow willing, because that's the thing. Minor league ball is so bad. I mean, there have been stories about how minor league players are like basically incredibly poor because they can't afford it.
You know what's funny? I'm sorry to cut you off, but great story I have from that.
Yes.
Okay, so when I was my good time at the Death Star USOC, when I was at the association going through my hard knocks of the Olympic Committee, one of my roommates, and I don't know, yeah, because I'm never gonna see him again. I have no idea if he listens to this show. John Weaver was played college ball. He was my roommate for the latter part of the time I was at the USOC. Worked with the Paralympic athletes because he was a big advocate of athletes with disabilities, and he did a lot in Chicago. Went to Central Michigan, played minor league ball, and as I continue this story, I'm going to find out what team he played for, which I think, in terms of keeping this kid's privacy, I've totally just blown its cover.
Excellent.
But alas, we have it, thanks to the beauty of the internet. Yes, Central Michigan. So he was originally drafted out of high school, and he played a year with the Princeton Rays. He was drafted in the Tampa Bay Rays organization. And how I know that was when he first moved in, he had a Central Michigan bag because MLB, unlike basketball, when he went out, because I think he was a freshman at Central Michigan, freshman or sophomore. When he went out early, he is able to come back to school and play ball in the NCAA because there's no rule against that. When you leave, you can go back and keep your eligibility. That's how Brandon Whedon was playing in the NFL when he played at Oklahoma State, even though he played baseball. Drafted by the Princeton Rays. He's in the Rays organization, had all the Tampa Bay Rays swag, massive travel bag. And I was like, this guy's a stud. And he was no idea where his whereabouts are now. But he actually attempted to sue either the MILB or Major League Baseball the fact that he was getting underpaid. He told me that our $9 to $10 an hour at the USOC was actually less than he was making an hour as a minor league baseball player.
Oh my God!
And I think he was getting like $8 an hour. I think it's below minimum wage. I mean, people at McDonald's working and being paid more than him. Anyway, he attempted to sue. I have no idea if he's pursuing that lawsuit. But yeah. Anyway, but shout out to him. But as you continue with Tebow, yeah, because you mentioned minor league baseball is such a farce. Great promotions though, when they had like Manti Te'o, Linnea Kuklua night, where you could buy a ticket and then get a seat for free for your imaginary girlfriend. But you don't think Tebow is? Are they just going to keep Tebow in Florida to sell tickets? Are the Mets being smart about this from a business standpoint?
Yeah, I think a lot of teams, another teams probably look at it and say, hey, you know what? Why not? Let's take a flyer. If he turns out to be good, he turns out to be good. If he doesn't turn out to be good, no harm, no foul. Not much of an investment. So I think that, the Mets will look at him and be like, yeah, you know what, why not? Maybe sell some tickets. Maybe it turned out to be good. Maybe it'll turn into a quality player. But so I think it's low risk and maybe moderate reward.
Are you surprised with the backlash he's getting though? Because a lot of former Major League Baseball players are really upset. I remember listening to Dan Patrick and Dallas Braden, who's a scrub by the way, and scrub commentator, completely bashed him, and it's like calm down, Don't hate the guy for trying and actually succeeding. Are people being too harsh about him?
I don't know. I think it's one of those things, because Tim Tebow kept on trying to have the comeback, never actually retired, even though he was having a successful career in the SEC Network at ESPN. He's very good on TV. I think he's very solid on TV. But I think that, a lot of guys look at like, hey, there's so many guys that never even get a chance to crack at hacking it in Major League Baseball. He's only getting it because we remember him, a star, college athlete. You remember him for all that. So I'm not necessarily surprised that people are hating. I can't blame them for it. I mean, say what you want, but
I'll give him kudos. The fact that he actually caught scouts to come out and actually got a contract. The first person I thought of when he got signed by the Mets was the I wouldn't say he's the often related, never imitated Jaron Berman. Wasn't he a fan of the Mets? Isn't he a fan of the Mets?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, because he thinks Bartolo Colon is the greatest pitcher since Cy Young.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so that was Tebow. Next one's a NASCAR question, Flo. Yes, finally back in our wheelhouse. Dale Jr. out for the season with a concussion. Tony Stewart makes the chase. No parity in NASCAR. Are we still going to watch the chase?
I'm going to watch the chase because you still have a little bit of parity. I mean, Chris Buescher is in the chase.
Oh, my God, yes.
So
when you texted me that, because that was a Monday.
That was the first time we had a guy make the chase where it was down to, because Kyle Busch had the whole thing of will he get to the top 30, will he not? But Chris Buescher was fighting to secure a spot in the top 30 at Richmond. So he could have had a bad race and fallen out of the top 30, which would have been. So I don't know necessarily if there's no parity, but it's a lot of same guys. You see Tony Stewart back in the mix. Will
he make noise?
I don't think he will. I think that he's been good. He hasn't been great this season. I think he's lost a lot of edge. save for when he randomly wrecked Brian Scott, and then just straight away at Darlington, which was so absurd. And then he just like openly wrecked. Ryan Newman wrecked him. He was like spinning all over the place to get with Newman, which was, I don't know if you saw that interview. That was so out of control.
We love it. Which is funny because Ryan Newman, not too long ago, almost won the championship by failing to win a race. Such a mess. Who you got in the chase? Who's the guy going to run the table? Many are saying Truex.
What's that?
Many are saying Truex could do it.
I think Truex, that team has shown a lot of speed this year at a lot of different racetracks. It would not surprise me if he won. I still have yet to do, I've been meaning to, but I've been bogged down with moving, all this crap and work and all this stuff. I do plan tomorrow to do my chase picks, but I had to go on a limb right now, and I may change. You know what? I think I will go with Truex. I think that team has shown a lot of something. We love Truex because he's a Jersey guy. And, that team, a single-car team, although they're adding a second team next year, based in Denver, which is I always just love. I mean, I remember when it was like Kenny Wallace driving that orange and black furniture road car. The Joe Nemechek, Regan Smith, that won at Darlington. Remember that? So it's crazy. But I think Truex has definitely got a great shot. He's ran well this year, and he's got a shot.
Let's see. I'm going to find out who was affiliated with this team. Yeah, because ever since they partnered with Childress, that's sort of when they first came on the scene. The last time they had a 2-car team was when they first started.
Yeah.
And they had Nemechek in the 78. When Front Row Joe became like the big thing because he came over from Army Race, from MB2 Motorsports in the Army car.
Yeah.
And then it was like 78. Front Row Joe's in the front, and we're like, he's back. And then, of course, obviously not. Kenny Wallace racing like the limited schedule.
I remember that.
The guys affiliated is hilarious. And then obviously Kurt Busch sort of launched this team into the stratosphere of great competitiveness. Jimmy Spencer was a driver on that team.
I do remember that when he drove like part-time for that.
Oh, jeez. 05 was when that team started. Shout out to Denver, Colorado for actually seeing something through and not getting anyone, massively in trouble for it. But NASCAR predictions, it's fabulous. Truex could do it. I wouldn't be surprised if, obviously, first of all, Toyota is going to win it, as much as I hate to say it. I'm very happy Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott are in the chase. I'm very happy Kyle Larson won a race because I think it was on this show, actually, he had a chance to win at Dover. And I talked about it in depth, how he should have given the old chrome horn to Matt Kenseth. And it was a great column by Jeff Gluck the next day saying that he will regret it because he was so bad on the points in terms of the top 16, which is awful, by the way. The chase playoffs is such a disaster. Year 3, third time's a charm for it to be terrible. But I'm so glad he ended up winning because, one, he carries the flag for the guys born in 92, like this guy here. So yours truly. And he is the future of motorsport in this country, which is hilarious, but he is the guy. And I'm so glad he won because Target is pulling out of IndyCar at the end of this year, which is sad because Target sponsored IndyCar back in the days of like Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi when I was growing up. And the only car it's sponsoring is the 42. I love Target. And the fact that, he can...
I was at Target earlier.
Yes, it's a great store because it's like the more high class of Walmart.
It is.
And so I'm glad Kyle Larson won. It's funny the 24 is back in it. It's weird to see though with Chase Elliott, which it's just funny because I've hated the chase since it came into existence. But yet I'm very excited for it because I've hardly followed NASCAR at all this year. Obviously with the Olympics going on with an actual full-time paying job, you sort of get lost in it all. But And the only thing with NASCAR I've been following is Smoke winning at Sonoma, which is great. Watched it with my dad, just shoving Danny Hamlin in the wall. It's his second year in a row that NASCAR is giving sort of the washing their hands of the whole affair of the medical waiver, which is a joke. Because I'm surprised, because if Dale Jr. had come back from his concussion and finished like 17th in the points, NASCAR would put him in the chase.
Of course.
Did Chris Buescher only make it because Junebug is not in the chase?
Well, I think Junior. I don't know necessarily. I think I don't think Junior being out really helped Buescher all that much, but beyond him cracking into the top 30. I don't remember where Junior ended up finishing in the top 30, or where he ended up finishing in points. He may have fallen out of the top 30. So that's actually, you know what, I did not even think about it. So that's actually an interesting point that you brought up. So, but, I think that's the interesting thing with NASCAR. NASCAR, we've talked about the concussion so much in the NFL and also in hockey as well. We really haven't talked a lot about it in NASCAR, and I think that you saw Junior going through the process and just be like, you know what, I'm definitely not going to be able to race this year. I mean, we still have a few more months to go, and I think that he realized, because even though Junior is one of those guys, we always think of him, as the kid of, the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, and we remember him with the blonde hair and all that jazz and all that shenanigans. But I think with Dale Earnhardt Jr., I think that he's not that old. I think he's over 40 now. So I think he realized, you know what, it's just not worth it. Trying to come back and have this a heroic comeback. It's just because what is he gonna get? So
is he gonna retire? Many are saying the dreaded R word.
That's an interesting question. If they determine that he is not good enough to depending on how severe this concussion stuff is, I wouldn't rule it out. I still expect to see him next year running come speed weeks in that 88 car.
Oh, jeez.
But it's an interesting theory. I know people have brought up on it. If he decides it's not worth it, because like I said, he is 40, but he has still has a whole life at him. That's the thing with athletes. I mean, they retire so young, even though you still have older NASCAR drivers still going on forever. But it's definitely an interesting scenario.
Does that make you sad that the guys we've grown up and loved? It's funny you mentioned Junior with the blonde hair. I actually witnessed his first win, 2001 DirecTV 500, Texas Motor Speedway. One of the very first few full races I actually remember watching. Because we will dive back into the history of Mike Gardner's History of Motorsports. First ever race I ever watched. Qualifying for the Interstate Battery 500, 1997. Texas Motor Speedway's inaugural race. Saw Jeff Burton win that race.
Yeah.
The year after, 98 Brickyard 400. Watched Jeff Gordon beat Mark Martin. Back when they had the Winston Nobel 5, which they need to bring back. Because that was great. Because they used to have it at such a... They used to pick 5 or used to be and the chance... Kind of like what the Dash for Cash thing in the Xfinity series. They used to do it in the Cup Series for our non-NASCAR fans of Fanatic Radio. They used to have it at Daytona, Darlington, Michigan, Charlotte, and then Atlanta. All the big tracks. And they need to bring that back because that was exciting. As you pick, and when they win, the money truck and the fake dollar bills showering the car if that guy won. So 98, Texas Motor Speedway. And then 99, 99, 2000, I saw various IndyCar races. 2001, that was the big year racing. Saw the Indy 500, Helio Castroneves win his rookie season, which is funny. The last time a rookie won the Indy 500 before this year, with my guy Alex Rossi winning, was Helio Castroneves in 2001. which is fabulous because that was back-to-back years rookie won. Juan Montoya won it 2000. Ilya won it 2001. Fast forward to 2016, 100th running. Alex Rossi wins it. And then that same year in 2001, I saw Dale Jr. win. I was at Dale Earnhardt in Victory Lane. 2000 DirecTV 500, Junebug won. 2001 was the year Dale Earnhardt died when everyone did the 3 on the third lap, which I still do to this day. Even working at Texas Motor Speedway, sitting in the media center, third lap, hold the number 3 up, because we never forget the heroes of the sport. It is, I'm glad that he's sitting out the rest of the year, because it's funny because this is sort of the first, true thing it's brought to light of concussions of a physical ailment in motorsports. Because we saw with Mark Martin because he just got old, and Jeff Gordon claims it's his time to go, but it is not. The series. I am a true conspiracy theorist that NASCAR forced him to retire by making all these chase changes and the playoffs and stuff. Because Jeff Gordon should have been a 7-time champion. Yet the suits in New York and Daytona refused to let him win because they obviously wanted to usher in the new era and bring more parity to the sport. It turned out end up killing NASCAR, losing fans. Now they're scrambling, not letting the true winners win, not hiring me, not letting Junebug hasn't won. Yet Kyle Busch can race 19 races and be a champion. Ryan Newman can almost winning 0 races. It's like they have no strategy, no plan. Same for this year. But when Tony Stewart retires, is NASCAR, if Dale Jr. retires, if Tony Stewart's gone, Junebug is gone, is NASCAR dead in terms of excitement?
I don't know if it's necessarily dead, but that's definitely because when I got into NASCAR was, the first race I remember watching was, I think it was the last Daytona 500 Jeff Gordon was. What was that, 05? And it was the year that Tony was it the year Tony Stewart won? Yes, it was the year Tony Stewart won. I think it was his last title with Joe Gibbs in the number 20 Home Depot car. When Jimmy Johnson was second in points, and then he had the tire issue. And then Greg Biffle won the race, beat Mark Martin.
Oh God, yeah, it was 05 season.
Wallace's last race. That's what it was. Because I watched that first Daytona 500, and I was like, Rusty Wallace out of nowhere is my guy because that's awesome. So I became a Rusty Wallace fan, and I still am. He was awful on ESPN, but that whole rant. That's really the end of an era of those 90s guys, and even or those early 2000s guys. You look at it because Kenseth still in the mix, last pre-chase, and he still is good. Carl Edwards kind of was that first star. Jimmy Johnson still in the mix, but really a lot of those guys, Jeff Gordon, and if Dale Earnhardt Jr. goes, and Tony Stewart's retiring, and you got Harvick. We love Happy Harvick. He's still out of control. But now you got this new wave. You got Kyle Larson, who's looked great. You got Chase Elliott. You got Blaney. You got all these guys that are really pushing the action and doing some great stuff. So it's definitely, I don't know if NASCAR is necessarily dead, because the most popular driver before Dale Earnhardt Jr. was Bill Elliott, and everybody loves Chase Elliott. So I think, actually, I don't know if everybody loves Chase Elliott. I like Chase Elliott, because we love Bill Elliott. But I think that NASCAR's not necessarily dead. But being with that Dale Earnhardt Jr., is Jeffrey Earnhardt going to be the next most popular driver, that Can-Am third? I love that. By the way, I love that 32 car he drives for, Jeffrey Earnhardt. It is sponsored by CorvetteParts.com, and it's a Ford. What is that? I don't know how the hell that happens when he's not sponsored by Can-Am. But, and also, it's just so bizarre to see any Earnhardt in a Ford. That's kind of crazy. But we love Carrie Earnhardt, great man.
I think Junebug has got a niece. I don't know if she's seriously dedicated with NASCAR, but she's coming out through the ranks.
Excellent.
But yeah, the chase starts this Sunday, doesn't it? Chicagoland?
It does at Chicagoland Speedway, Joliet, Illinois.
Yes. So we got yeah. So great. So first of all, shout out to the fans. 2 great questions. Tebow, we got a Jaron Berman reference, and then we got a NASCAR apocalypse question. It's because like with Chris Buescher making the chase, like the year Allmendinger won. He won it, the first ever playoff. He won at Watkins Glen. Did awful. Got bounced out of Dover.
You don't forget when Eric Almirola made the chase as well. Winning at
That's right.
He played Coke 0400.
That's oh my gosh. Rain shortened Coke 0400.
That's right.
Yeah. So Flo and I very high on Truex. I think Toyota once again is going to win it, thus bringing more criticism to NASCAR, saying that Toyota has paid off NASCAR. More conspiracy theories in NASCAR than you can throw a stick at. I would not be surprised if Rowdy Bush goes back to back, and then people say, "Oh, he's one of the best of all time," and then I say, "Absolutely not." And I'll be back on this show ranting till I'm blue in the face. But we will continue with more questions. thefanacradio@gmail.com. Who? Oh, this is a good one I found. Who had a worse month, Ryan Lochte or Hope Solo?
That's a great question. I think Ryan Lochte, because he just is, even though he's got the whole good dancing at the start thing, he just turned into, I mean, he was always kind of a goofball. He's just such a dope, frankly.
Yeah.
But I think that with him, he just turned himself with this whole thing into such an international and an international joke. I mean, you know, and it really clouded what was a spectacular Olympics for Team USA. For Hope Solo, definitely just a really kind of a sad end to such a great career. But she's just been such a wild card off the court. She's had the domestic violence charges, and she's had issues. And I remember when she had that little scuffle talking trash about Brianna Scurry when Scurry was still on the team, and like they made her the goalie and had her Hope Solo, and she was like, "What the hell is this?" And so I remember all this stuff. So
yeah, she almost went fist to cuff with Pia Sundhage, now coaches Sweden, and was ultimately the downfall of Team USA.
Yeah, so definitely a sad end for Hope Solo. God damn it! But I gotta go with Lochte here. I mean, Lochte was just embarrassing for like everybody.
He got attacked on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, that was outrageous. But I mean, what the hell is that?
There's people protesting in the no Lochte shirts and Dancing with the Stars. Like, come on now.
Yeah, you can't defend that. That was horrible.
I mean, Lochte had a bad month, but he was with a group of people. I think Hope Solo had a worse month because, at least with Lochte, it was kind of carried out, and and then you knew. I mean, you felt sorry. I think you felt sorry for him, but then you didn't. You hated him, and now you just don't care about him. But now he's on Dancing with the Stars. You do care about him because you got to vote him in. Because now, now after this whole on stage attackers or whatever, you kind of feel bad for the guy. I think Hope Solo had the worst because you go in number 1 in the world. Because Lochte's not number 1. He's forever Phelps' shadow. You are Hope. Yes, they had such a bad tournament. And she's considered the greatest. She's considered the best number 1 goalie in the world in women's soccer. That's like strike 1, and then she and says, "I'm not even gonna play club. I am cutting it off for the rest of the year." I think she had a worse month.
Okay.
Hope Solo, she definitely had a rougher weekend, or a rougher month, excuse me. And of course, we try to get Flo back on the show, and we'll continue the update with Flo's IKEA mess. We will get to our final question from a fan, the Fanatic Radio at gmail.com. Apple released its iPhone 7, buy or sell? Well, knowing that I am in the market for a new phone, mine is indeed a dinosaur. It is so much red tape behind these new phones, this new technology. Mainly the fact that it has no headphone jack kind of makes me a little upset because I need the headphones. We love the headphones. And if there's certain things that are being advertised now that it's not worth it, you know. I'll buy a DSLR camera, not use my phone, or I don't need it to be waterproof because what you do instead is just don't bring your phone near water. Don't get it wet. You know, keep it away as much as possible. And the headphone jack, it's, you know, everything's Bluetooth. It's so unreliable. And imagine the headphone buds fall out of your ear. You have to replace them. That's another, you know, $100 out of pocket. So much goes into this that you know, I'm a firm believer. And back to the conspiracy theories, it's kind of been the theme of the show. We're slowly reaching the peak of technological achievement, you know, in our generation. You know, waterproof phones, is it really worth it? Is my thing, because you don't need it. You know, it's you know, retina display on a phone. Everyone's saying, oh, phone's the future. You know, it's funny, you know, coming from the real world. It's not really, you know, you use your phone for so much, but then everything else is on the computer. You know, the time you use your phone is, you know, less than an hour commute home. It's not worth it. But when we get Flo back, we'll definitely get his take on that. But definitely got to tell the fans where I've been. Great experiences, by the way. 2 weeks ago, Houston, Texas. Team USA Paralympic team processing. Great time because what I did was amazing. Great to see employees of the USOC that I haven't seen, you know, in almost a year. Definitely want to give them shout outs. But I was working in the Ralph Lauren section. Well, actually helped up set up and the first day of official processing. And so I was helped set up pallets and pallets full of Nike and Ralph Lauren gear, which is amazing just how much stuff is given for the Team USA. Because basically what processing is every athlete has to assemble in one city, regardless of where it was. So for Sochi in 2014, everyone had to go to Frankfurt before flying down to Russia. And for Rio 2016, everyone had to go through Houston to then fly down to Brasileia, Rio de Janeiro. And so every athlete got opening closing ceremony, Ralph Lauren bag, Nike bag, Omega watches, the Olympic ring, CDC information on Zika, food, praise, love. So I helped set up and also was working with the Paralympians for their opening and closing ceremonies, getting them tailored, working with the great British tailors of Ralph Lauren. Hilarious guys. Got to see some guys that I lived with at the training center when I was there. So that was fun. Got to also spend some time with the bro, see his new digs in Houston. I want to give him a shout out. And that was great. Went to Nashville, went to Nash Vegas. Was reunited with my former roommate at the USOC. Goes to Vandy because I was there the night that Tennessee almost lost to Appalachian State, and Vandy blew a double-digit lead and lost to South Carolina. Opening week of college football, was there with a great pep rally for the folks at Nissan headquarters. Heisman House, got a picture taken with the Heisman. I'll definitely post those photos on social media. It's fabulous. Shout out to Nissan's partnership with college sports and the Heisman Trophy as well. Great segue after a successful Olympics. Very excited to see all the activation of the Rogue and Leaf. I encourage many to buy one of those. And then after that, I went to Phoenix, Arizona. Got to watch an Arizona Diamondbacks game, which is hilarious because the Diamondbacks play indoors in almost an arena. Chase Bank Ballpark is an arena. Yeah, it is closed off. Obviously, the roof opens. With the and in terms of weather getting cool, it's triple digits 90% of the time in Phoenix, Arizona. But very weird atmosphere. It was with my cousin and good friend Mary. We were there. Mary is saying Mary at ITA, Intercollegiate Tennis Association, awesome bottle opener that you can definitely purchase from ITA website. But went to the game as well. Big baseball fan. My cousin goes to Arizona State. Diamondbacks stink, but saw San Francisco Giants, which they are in the hunt for a playoff wild card, while the Cubs and the Nats, the my Texas Rangers, they're clinching playoff spots right and left. Do not rest on the San Francisco Giants. Hunter Pence, Buster Posey, Bumgarner. Didn't see Bumgarner pitch. Was very upset about that. But saw world champion players. But it was very weird being in that stadium. It's closed off. It's you have to go through doors inside an arena. It is very weird. Have pics. We'll definitely post it on the website. But it was fun to see. It was in Phoenix. ASU played Texas Tech. Yeah, it's just a wow weekend. Finally back in Dallas. Great we were able to do Fanatic Radio. Great Flo was able to join us. Before the powers that may be had to the FCC restrictions had to take him off as he's finishing his IKEA business, and had to turn it in for the night due to his late night shift. So I'll do a solo. Some thumbs up, thumbs down here on Fanatic Radio. Thumbs up to Flo for joining us back on the air. Thumbs up to the Kansas City Chiefs for crunching it out in overtime. Great comeback. Biggest comeback in franchise history. As we continue the shout out to Unity Hunt, because their other property, FC Dallas, won the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. A great game against the New England Revolution. Good to see FC Dallas win a trophy. First time, at home field. Because the U.S. Open Cup is kind of the equivalent to the FA Cup, in which anyone in the U.S., any professional team can answer and win, but MLS teams usually dominate. So thumbs up to FC Dallas winning that trophy. It's currently being number 1 in the Western Conference. Also thumbs up to Landon Donovan for returning. So excited. Favorite soccer athlete of all time. Back in the mix. And of course, thumbs up to the Paralympians currently competing in Rio, or I guess have finished in Rio. Great to hear their story. Great to see, great to see the athletes that I saw in Colorado Springs, but now to see them compete on the global stage is fantastic. 4 visually impaired Paralympians ran faster than my guy Matt Centrowitz in the men's 1500 meter, which is amazing, considering that they are actual athletes. Great to know the stories about them. Thumbs up to the Pats, the Packers, and the Steelers, my new pseudo favorite teams, all picking up dubs. Thumbs up to Bill Belichick and his deadpan interviews. Thumbs down to the Chicago White Sox for renaming their field Guarantee Rate Field. Terrible name. Thumbs down to the Lombardi Award from what's being a great trophy, being the best offensive defensive lineman. I said are now willing to encompass all positions. I think that is selfish, terrible, and a disgrace to everything we know. Thumbs down to John Wall and Bradley Beal. Continuous beef. How both undeserving max contracts athletes say they don't like playing with each other, which is fabulous. I cannot wait to see how the Wiz implode. And thumbs up to the Cubs. Thumbs up to all the Chicago fans. Shout out to all my Chicagoans. Spencer Wade, Taylor Wilder, Farah, all Chicago people. The Cubs are good. I'm very excited for baseball. just for that, even though I know they won't win because the powers that may be, postseason baseball and wild card is a joke. So yeah, so we'll do it for another episode of Fanatic Radio. Check back next week as we'll talk about concussions in the NFL and how they fail to recognize it fully by just throwing $100 million is only 1% of the $1 billion the National Football League makes. But for the Notorious Ben Florence, I'm Mike Gardner, signing us. Check out the podcast on iTunes, blogtalkradio.com/fanaticradio, facebook.com/fanaticradio, and always check out this podcast and BFlow360 podcast at the greatest website in the world, bflow360.com. For the Notorious Ben Florence, I'm Mike Gardner. So long. We'll see you next time.